This beautiful couple purchased their first home just this November. So when you first started, when you reached out as far as wanting to plan and do the next step as far as for buying your property, how long did it take for that process to even happen? What made you feel that it was time?
It took quite a few years.
Yeah.
Mostly because we started dating when we were still pretty young, so it took a while to get to the point of saving up enough to make it even a thought for us. But I would say maybe after 5 years maybe of dating, as we started to get into our mid-20s, we were thinking it was more of a reality.
Okay.
And then from there, I think we were thinking about it for about a year and a half before we reached out to you. And then from there, about 10 months to a year, then we're here.
Okay, so you mentioned dating. So how long have you guys been together?
Almost 7.5 years.
Nice. Okay, 7.5 years. So from 7.5 years, so you would say because I think it's cool when people get together and they talk about future plans. I think it's nice when you have someone that you can make goals with and you can say, okay, let's make this plan and actually do it, right? The plan and actually doing it is pretty cool because a lot of people I see wish they had that. So good stuff to you guys. Thanks. Okay, so when it comes to the planning process, did you include your family with the process? Did you talk to them about it before you wanted to buy?
No, my dad always mentioned it though. You guys should just put it out there and see what you can do. But I always just believe that you have to have this X amount of money before you even think about it, and that's where we weren't at. But my dad definitely tried to put it in my brain that you guys should just look, see what you can do, and see what you can afford.
Yeah.
It was just more of a conversation between the both of us. We wanted that house that we put the equity towards.
Nice. So your family. So it's nice to have a conversation with your family about it. Do you have a history in your family that does your family own real estate also?
No. Well, my brother does, but okay.
Yeah. I would say my family for the most part. But it's been sporadic. So none of my family's owned a home and lived in the same home for years and years.
Gotcha.
Sometimes they would buy and live in it for years and flip it and then move somewhere else.
Okay.
But I would also sorry to go back to the last question, but with the house and the planning aspect of family, I would say that we definitely didn't so much have a plan that we were working with family on, but we did receive encouragement in terms of looking to buy and establishing equity and home ownership, especially from Frank, my stepdad, and some other family members that were always encouraging in that aspect and kind of pushing the idea to think about it, even when I think we didn't think it was a reality.
Right.
But they were telling us, kind of, hey, look into this, just think about it. And that kind of got us to the point where we were okay, maybe this is something we can do. And got us where we were.
Nice. And sometimes people don't realize the tribe that is behind what happens, what actually makes things happen, right? Making the move, the support. I mean, investing a huge amount of money into real estate is not easy to swallow, right? You're okay, this is my livelihood. Can I afford it? How much were you paying rent before you purchased your property?
We were paying $2,200.
Okay.
But we had moved probably 3 times before that. So still roughly about that same, but it was at the end of the day going to nothing, which is what really frustrated us.
Yeah.
So that's why we were well, if we can just pay a little bit more, that will go to something.
So do you feel because buying a house is your mortgage, your total mortgage is going to be a bit more than what your rent would be. Do you feel like it's been easier to manage? Do you feel like it was hard to manage at the beginning? What was that experience for you?
I don't think it's been too hard to manage. I think we're both pretty good with money in terms of not overextending ourselves, and I think we've seen that through life with friends or family where sometimes people overextend themselves and getting into debt and putting themselves in a situation to be too many obligations with their money. So we've both been pretty conservative with how our money's been and budgeting, and it's made, since we moved in here and paying our mortgage, has been pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
And even though it is higher than what we were before, we knew that for a couple of years leading up to it, so we were trying to save for that reason. and also making sure that we didn't put too much of a down payment together where we wouldn't have any money in our bank account and something too stretched there.
Right. Well, so talking about down payment, like how much would you say total it cost you total to put into your home? Like as far as like buying, because I think sometimes people go, how much does it take to invest, and what do you need to put into buying a home? Like what did you say your initial investment was to get your loan?
Yeah, 9%.
9%.
Yeah. I think we bought initially before we really looked into it online, but we had to do 20%.
Same,
That was part of the reason it took so long for that to in our minds to become something.
It's interesting you said that because I've heard people think that it was it's 20%. And, so 9% is definitely more. You can actually do less, but thankfully you're able to do more at 9%, and then those bigger things. So,
Yeah.
okay. As far as like mortgage, so when you started the whole pre-approval process, how was that for you?
It was kind of exciting just to kind of see what we could afford. The number that they give you, you're like, ooh. But then you're like, you need to come back to this reality a little bit. But it was exciting. I always thought it was exciting for me to see kind of our hard work pay off, to see what we could then start looking for.
Yeah. Do you think, because sometimes I realize that with folks doing the loan application itself and turning all the documents in, would you say it was hard, it was easy, relatively?
It was, it was a little tedious, just the number of documents you need to get and reaching up to like work for proof of employment and bank account statements and stuff like that. Nothing that's super, super difficult, just a lot of things all coming together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would definitely suggest, like, for anyone doing it, is just stay organized. Like, I kept ours super organized, and because we did the pre-approval actually twice, it was a lot easier with being organized than to go back and see which documents we actually just had to update again. You don't have to update all of them.
Yeah.
So I would definitely suggest to stay organized with it.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, organization is great. I was working with a client, every time I asked for something, he was like,
Yeah.
It's like, let me look through this pile of paperwork. So yeah, being organized is awesome. Okay, so you would say that from the application and getting the paperwork together probably took, a couple hours in general?
Yeah, I would say about so.
A couple hours.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the buying process.
Yeah, I think in the very beginning it was just the excitement of looking at houses.
Definitely.
And it wasn't even so much what are we looking for, what's the cost. It's just we want to look at houses, we want to get a house. And then I think over time we kind of honed in on exactly where our budget was, and within that, what's our top level budget, what's a little more comfortable, and kind of figuring out exactly what we wanted in a house, where we wanted to look for a house, which neighborhoods, and it just took a while, but it was almost helpful that we didn't get the first house we put an offer on, because the longer it went along, the more we felt like experts in knowing what we wanted and where we wanted to look. So we put offers on 3 houses for this one.
Yeah.
And I think
That's
each
not bad.
I think each one subsequently there was more offers on each one as it went along. The first one might have been 7 or 8, and then the next one was up in the teens. I think the last one's in the 20s. And, it was it's discouraging in the moment, but sometimes afterwards you realize maybe that wasn't the house for us.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a reason that didn't work out. And after we've gone through everything, I think we are probably happiest with this house of any of the ones we put offers on. So.
Yeah, just piggybacking off that, I was super excited at the beginning, but then as the more of the rejection comes in, you get frustrated. We had the one house that we were in love with, but it didn't meet any of our goals. And I'm so happy now looking back at it and not getting it, because we wouldn't have ended up with what we exactly wanted. We would have settled. I think you can't settle.
Yeah.
Is a huge part of it too. What's awesome about this place is we actually lived down the street originally when we first moved in together. So now we're all coming back full circle, and it's nice to be back in the neighborhood. And actually, we had never even knew of this neighborhood prior to looking at houses or even living over here.
Yeah.
So it's really like a hidden gem. It was an awesome find.
Yes. Yeah, no, the whole, like you said, the whole process of looking for properties, it's like, yeah, let's go out, let's look. And then you put an offer, then you're like, oh God, I didn't get it. And then like you said, after your third offer, you're like, should we just take a break?
Yeah.
We're feeling pretty defeated. And I always say, this is my hippie side. I always say, just believe in the process. It will work out, and whatever that house will be that prevails for you, it's going to be the one. And it always happens that way. Because I've been doing this for 20 years, and it always happens.
Yeah.
Even when people have no faith at the end of the day, because this market is tough. It's been tough for years. It hasn't let up. I feel like you've got the peak of the market, and then it's just gotten even stronger. So the fact that you hung in there, you didn't give up, and that you were just like, okay, let's do it. And finding this house is a little kind of interesting because, like you said, you were looking at places that might have not been a fit, or maybe could have settled because you're like, is this maybe what we're going to be able to get? But finding a home that checked all of your boxes is fun, especially when you get in your price range also. You did it. The cool thing about this is that while people were overbidding on properties, you kind of came in here with some equity, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that will benefit us.
Yes, which is, so when it comes to properties and searching, even in the worst market, there's always going to be something that there's always going to be a property that maybe it's just on the market, we could get it right away, or the pictures don't look that great, or something happens where you kind of find a one-off where you're able to get in.
Yeah.
In this case, you guys were super lucky. And I don't think the parties involved at the time really knew how strong the market was. So
yeah,
it was a good hard part.
And what's so funny too is when you had reached out to us about this house, I was super hesitant because I was like, oh, I don't know how to feel about this. Like, this is gonna be our next house we look at, and I was like, whatever, we'll just go and look at it. And then he's like, come on, let's just go look. And then coming in, yeah, you were completely right. And we're like, okay, it's just fun. Yeah, it is just funny how it works out.
It is. And then we had to do some tactics to kind of make it happen, right?
Right.
So we made it happen. We got an answer, I think that night or the next morning,
like 6 a.m.
6 a.m. But we were under pressure. But this house was perfect for you. I'm glad that you didn't get the other properties because this feels like the best neighborhood. The way when it comes to properties, and even if you're from a certain area, you don't really know the streets. Like, there's certain streets that are cuter than others. Like this neighborhood, you could easily pass it up because there's no really reason to get in here, right?
Right.
So I think, looking at all the properties that fit your criteria, sometimes you just don't know if that might be the house. Looking at you had looked at other properties deeper into the city and further down, and being able to look at those properties gave you an idea of not being able to, or being able to hone in what area you wanted to be.
Yeah.
Like how long more did it add to your commute? What neighborhood do you want to be in? So.
Yeah, and what we initially were looking at, regardless, was a 3-bed, 2-bath, and we wanted a yard for our dog, and that was our huge what we were looking for. And then obviously room to entertain, and so trying to settle on the other houses is you just can't settle.
Yeah.
Because this did work out. And then we wanted a house too that at the end of the day you could make your own little touches on it, and without being financially completely blown out of the water. And this house allows us to do it. Yeah.
Well, do you have any tips for anybody who is just getting into the market, or who's looking to buy and just are completely discouraged, or just starting to buy and they didn't start searching? Well, is there any tips that you would give them?
Going back to what you touched on about the pre-approval process, and just when you get to the point of putting offers in, organization and just being on top of everything is huge. And I have Lindsay to thank for that, because everything was organized, and we were in a position that we could react fast if we needed to in any situation. And the level of discouragement you get each time that you put an offer on a house and don't get it, it only lasts for maybe a day or two. And you think that's the only house in the world for you. Yep. That's the only one that's going to work.
That's
and
what
then,
fits.
Yeah. Within a week or two, you see another house, and then you're set on this one. And the biggest thing is just not to get discouraged and give up. And as cliche as it is, that things will work out and you'll find the right place and it'll all come together. That's exactly what happened to us. We looked at houses for about 10 months from when we initially got our first pre-approval to when we closed here. And no matter how many houses we looked at or put offers on, it worked out as well as it could in the perfect place. And so it's just staying through that, and it's a process.
I think what's really cool about a journey from when we first met to how we are today is that so just so you have a little background of how we met, I got a property and I fixed it. It was I remodeled the whole thing, and it was just on its final way of being completed. And then I met them, and they were like ready to rent, and it was, my property wasn't completely done, but they were like, let's take it, and they were so cute, and I had a great feeling about you guys from the get-go, and I was like, okay, let's make it happen. And then really sad when we decided it was time to move, I was like, okay, no worries. But I did put out there, I said, look, if you guys decide you want to buy a house in the future, please let me know. I'm here to help you. And with a great surprise one day, I get a phone call from you guys, and you guys are ready. And I was like, ooh, I just felt like auntie, like, okay, like, let's do this. So I think it's awesome, and I'm so proud of you guys for just from where we first met to where you guys are today. And I just think it's really cool when you first meet and you really just don't know what that becomes, Right. And I feel like now we're stuck together, right? Like it's like a long-term friendship. So
yeah,
thank you.
No, thank you. I mean, we really couldn't have done it without you, and you are such a great. Like, I text you so much. I'm like, hey, I have a question about this. You're like, okay, well, let me see it real quick. Oh, this is that, and all this. Like, you are always, you give us so much, like, help and just confidence with it all. So we couldn't have done without you.
Yeah, no. I'm so glad that you trust me. I mean, it's a relationship, right? Like, you got to feel like the people who is with this journey is with the best intention. That you can always call them. That they're not just, it's not just, okay, here's this, okay, bye, see you later. That you actually have someone that's going to be there with you throughout the process.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, you guys are awesome. So thank you so much. Thank you.